Payton Pritchard isn't the kind of name you'd expect to see lighting up the NBA, but this season, he's doing just that. At 6 feet 1 inch, he's shorter than almost everyone on the court and doesn't have the typical superstar resume. Yet somehow, he's become one of the most captivating stories in the league. His journey, his work ethic, and his uncanny ability to deliver in clutch moments have transformed him into a player that fans can't ignore. And while his story has plenty of highlights, what makes it truly remarkable is how unlikely it all seems. Let's start with a moment that perfectly encapsulates Pritchard's fire. In a game against the Miami Heat, Pritchard was having an incredible night, but instead of celebrating his dominance, he seemed angry. After every bucket, he'd turn toward Heat coach Erik Spoelstra, shaking his head with frustration. The reason? It had to do with the players Spoelstra had assigned to guard him. The decision reminded many of an old Larry Bird story, where Bird mocked the opposing team for putting white players on him. "You can't put a white dude on me. That's straight disrespect," Bird famously said. The irony here is that Pritchard himself is white. But the comparison to Bird, a Celtic legend, is just one of the many layers to the Pritchard phenomenon. What makes Pritchard's recent performances even more incredible is the sheer consistency he's shown. He dropped 25 points on the Miami Heat, followed it up with 24 against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then exploded for 29 against the Chicago Bulls. And when the Celtics need a game-winning shot, they're not looking to their high-profile stars like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Instead, they trust Pritchard, the undersized guard who's never even sniffed an all-star team. Whether it's a buzzer beater or a deep three with the shot clock winding down, Pritchard delivers time and time again. One of the season's funniest moments involved Pritchard and Doc Rivers. During a game earlier this year, with the clock winding down, Pritchard got the ball in his hands. Even before he released the shot, Rivers was already hunched over in despair, as if he knew what was coming. Sure enough, the ball went in, and the moment became a viral highlight. It's those kinds of moments that have endeared Pritchard to fans and made him one of the league's most intriguing players. But how did Payton Pritchard become this good? It's a question worth exploring because just 2 years ago, he was on the brink of irrelevance. Frustrated with his lack of playing time, he demanded a trade from the Celtics. At the time, Boston seemed more interested in prioritizing their star players and their deep bench rather than developing Pritchard. His minutes had dwindled from 19 as a rookie to just 13 in his third season. The frustration was understandable. But instead of shipping him off, the Celtics made some bold moves, trading away Malcolm Brogdon and Marcus Smart. Suddenly, Pritchard found himself with an opportunity, and he hasn't looked back since. What's perhaps most fascinating about Pritchard is his relentless work ethic. This is a guy who lives and breathes basketball. At just 13 years old, he was waking up at 5:30 in the morning to practice in a freezing garage, dribbling until his fingers bled. He convinced his parents to homeschool him in 8th grade so he could spend even more time honing his skills. While most teenagers were going to parties or hanging out with friends, Pritchard was in the gym, perfecting his game. Even now, in the off-season, he pays professional players from overseas to live with him so they can train together around the clock. It's that level of obsession that has propelled him from a high school player who was barely 6 feet tall to an NBA standout. But his journey hasn't been without its challenges. In high school, Pritchard was considered undersized, standing at just 5 feet 9 inches. Despite his height disadvantage, he led his team to 4 consecutive state championships, proving that he could dominate regardless of his physical limitations. Even then, he was often overlooked, ranked just 74th in the country as a high school senior, instead of jumping straight to the NBA after 1 year of college, like many top prospects. Pritchard spent 4 years at the University of Oregon. That decision, while unconventional, gave him time to mature and refine his game. It also caught the attention of Celtics GM Danny Ainge, who took a chance on him with the 26th pick in the 2020 NBA Draft.
With the 26th pick in the 2020 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Payton Pritchard from the University of Oregon.
Pritchard showed flashes of brilliance as a rookie, but his role was limited. On a team loaded with talent and championship aspirations, he found himself buried on the depth chart behind players like Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, and Derek White. It's hard to grow as a player when you're only getting spot minutes, and for a while, it seemed like Pritchard might never get the opportunity he needed. But now that he's finally getting consistent playing time, he's proving just how valuable he can be. One area where Pritchard has surprised everyone is on defense. At 6 feet 1 inch, you'd expect him to be a liability, especially against the elite scorers in the NBA. But over his last 5 games, he's held opponents to just 34% shooting, far below the league average of 47%. Celtics coach Joe Mazzulla even created a defensive drill in practice inspired by Pritchard's intensity. The drill involves guarding an opponent from beyond half court, staying low, and applying relentless pressure. For a player who was once thought to be too small to make an impact on defense, Pritchard is changing the narrative. And then there's his contract, which might be one of the biggest steals in the NBA. In October 2023, Pritchard signed a rookie extension for far less money than many of his peers. While players like LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards secured max contracts, Pritchard's deal was a fraction of the cost. Whether this was a calculated move by the Celtics to suppress his value or simply a result of his limited role at the time, the outcome is the same. Boston is getting near all-star production for the price of a rookie. In a league where financial flexibility is key, Pritchard's contract is a massive advantage for the Celtics. Despite his success, not everyone is convinced that Pritchard can sustain this level of play. Former Celtic and current broadcaster Brian Scalabrine has gone as far as to say that Pritchard could average 27 points and 8 assists if given a starting role. Those numbers would put him in elite company, alongside players like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Jason Tatum. While it's exciting to imagine, there are valid questions about whether Pritchard's production would hold up against starting caliber competition. So far, he's excelled in his role, but he's often going up against other bench players. When teams start scouting him more aggressively, will he be able to adjust? A good comparison might be Jordan Poole, who thrived off the bench for the Golden State Warriors but struggled when asked to take on a larger role. For now though, Pritchard is doing exactly what the Celtics need him to do, and his impact has been undeniable. In one game against the Bulls, the Celtics were trailing by 4 points heading into the fourth quarter. Pritchard came off the bench and scored 17 points in just 13 minutes, single-handedly turning the game around. Moments like that show why he's become such a valuable piece of the Celtics' rotation. But perhaps the most heartwarming aspect of Pritchard's story is how much he loves the game. There's a story about him and his wife walking their dog when he spotted a kid playing basketball on a playground. Without hesitation, Pritchard ran over and started playing one-on-one with the kid. For that kid, it was a moment he'll never forget. For Pritchard, it was just another way to stay connected to the game he loves. That passion, combined with his work ethic and talent, is what makes him such a special player. As the Celtics continue their quest for a championship, Pritchard's role will only grow more important. While he might not have the star power of Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, he's proven that he can deliver when it matters most. Whether it's hitting clutch shots, playing lockdown defense, or simply bringing energy off the bench, Pritchard has become an indispensable part of Boston's success. And with his team-friendly contract, the Celtics have a significant advantage as they navigate the challenges of building a championship roster under the NBA's new collective bargaining agreement. So, what's next for Payton Pritchard? Can he continue to elevate his game, or will he face the same challenges that have derailed other bench players when given larger roles? And what does his rise mean for the Celtics' championship aspirations? These are the questions that make his journey so compelling. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Payton Pritchard's breakout season, let me know in the comments. What do you think his ceiling is, and how crucial do you see him being for the Celtics moving forward? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts about the league. Who should we cover next? Your input shapes the conversation, so join in.